We're gonna get started with today's session. Today, this is our fifth session of the Racial Justice Advocacy Bootcamp series. So if you're joining us again this week and you've already joined us before, welcome back. But if you are new to these sessions, we welcome you and we thank you so much for taking this time out of your weekend to be with us here today. And I'm going to hand it over to Nisha to introduce our speaker for today.
Hello, everyone. So as Martha mentioned, our guest speaker today is Dr. Sheila Young, and she's an assistant professor at Charles Drew Medical and Science, and in Wilmington or it's Compton, but South LA. And today she'll be presenting on medical racism, which she's really has been a leader in the community just to get people to understand and realize how much there is going on with inequality with medical and resources to the underserved communities. And today she'll be presenting on medical racism and also trying to get individuals to understand what the gap when it comes to inequality with medical resources.
One thing I just want to add, I encourage you all again to turn on your cameras if you're willing and able, just so we can see your faces. And we will be reserving a couple minutes at the end of Dr. Young's presentation for questions. So if you wouldn't mind holding your questions until that time in the workshop, we would greatly appreciate it. But for now, I will be handing over the mic to Dr. Young.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today and taking the time to learn about this subject, which is very, very important. One of the things that I want to say from the beginning and from the get-go is that I want to acknowledge the work that you're doing and acknowledge that you've taken the time to not only educate yourselves about the issues, but that you're willing to take action. And that's something that a lot of people are not willing to do right now. So many people are talking and complaining, but they're not willing to do anything. And so again, I just want to start this conversation by saying that it warms my heart so much that you're able to step out of your comfort zones and act to make a difference during this time. So yes, please give yourselves a hand. Yes, I'll add my clap to that. All right, so today what I've been asked to speak about, and I'm sorry, my light is, it's sort of, okay, I think that's better. Okay, it's kind of lighting me up there. What I'm gonna speak to you today about is medical injustice. And one of the things that we want to understand is that this is not new. This is not new in any shape or part. And I'm going to start by showing us a video. And I want you to see what's happening today, what's happening on the earth right now. So give me just a minute. I'm going to share my screen. Just get that. Okay, there it is. And we pause. Okay, let me share my screen. Oh, okay.
Food City Valley Card.
A signed bill that Charles Johnson passionately fought to help pass. He lost his wife, Kira. This is just 12 hours after she gave birth to their second son. This new measure funds programs to make sure all states and hospitals are better prepared to prevent deaths related to childbirth. Kira's story was featured on our docuseries Mothers Matter, highlighting why so many moms, especially black women, black mothers out there, are dying during childbirth. The series is streaming right now on 11alive.com/Mothers Matter.
Okay, and then let me actually bring that up. Hold on. It's the actual. Let's see. I live by the airport, so if you hear that, that's a plane. Okay, here it is. All right, there's a commercial, but it'll end in a few minutes. Can you guys see in here? Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yes.
My wife, Kira Dixon Johnson, was the closest thing that I'd ever met to a superhero. She made me far better than I ever thought I could be, and she was far better than I ever deserved. We're talking about a woman that ran marathons, that raced cars, that spoke 5 languages fluently. So we were blessed to welcome our first son, Charles, on September 18th of 2014. We always wanted back-to-back boys, and we were blessed to find out that we were going to welcome our second son, Langston, in April of 2016. We walked into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on April 12th of 2016 with a woman that just wasn't in good health, she was in exceptional health. We went in for what was supposed to be a routine scheduled C-section on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, and we walked right into what was a nightmare. Shortly after the procedure took place around 2 o'clock, shortly afterwards, we went back to recovery. As I'm sitting there reflecting in all this glow and pride of being a new father for the second time, Kira's resting, my new baby is resting, and as I look at her bedside, I begin to see the catheter begin to turn red with blood. I brought it to the attention of the staff, the nurses at Cedars-Sinai. They came in. They said, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to order a set of tests. We're going to order a CT scan to be performed stat. I was concerned, but I said, you know what? My wife is healthy, and what's supposed to be one of the best hospitals in the world. I'm concerned, but we've got a plan, okay? Blood work comes back. It's showing that it's abnormal, and she's hemorrhaging. And they ordered a CT scan that was supposed to be performed stat. Keep in mind, this is around 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock comes, no CT scan. Her blood levels are continuing to drop. By this time, she's beginning to shiver uncontrollably. 6 o'clock, no CT scan. She's beginning to become pale. She's in extreme pain. 7 o'clock comes, 8 o'clock comes, no CT scan. I'm begging, I'm pleading the staff to do something. And around 9 o'clock, as I continue to plead for my wife's life, the staff at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center tells me, sir, your wife just isn't a priority right now. 8 o'clock comes, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. They said, well, we need to do a blood transfusion. I'm saying, well, where is the CT scan? It wasn't until after midnight that they finally took my wife back to surgery. After I'd begged and pleaded for them to take action for more than 10 hours. When they took Kira back to surgery, they opened her up, and there were 3.5 liters of blood in her abdomen. And she coded immediately. Now, I'm here to tell you this. I'm not here to tell you what I think. I'm here to tell you what I know. There are people on this panel that are far more intelligent than I'll ever be that are going to talk to you about the statistics. and how horrifying they are. What I'm here to tell you is this, is there's no statistic that can quantify what it's like to tell an 18-month-old that his mother's never coming home. There's no matrices that can quantify what it's like to explain to a son that will never know his mother just how amazing she was. My wife deserved better. Women all over this country deserve better.
In 2018, the United States of America has the highest rate of maternal deaths in the developed world. Every single year, we mourn roughly 700 mothers who are lost to complications during their pregnancy. And at least 350 of those deaths are preventable. Most alarmingly, profound racial disparities persist in these statistics. Black women today are 3 to 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy or delivery complications than white women. Before we try to explain that away on socioeconomic terms, just access to care, access to education, higher income, we have to be clear that even when you control for those factors, a wealthy Black woman with an advanced degree is still more likely to die or to have a baby die than a poor white woman without a high school diploma. Black women are 243% more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth related causes. 243%. There are, as we speak, 20 Republican attorneys general that are attempting to repeal the Affordable Care Act in our court system, after most of my Republican colleagues have voted to do the very same thing more times than I can count. So let's remember, 9.5 million. That is the number of previously uninsured women that gained health care coverage, including maternity care, which is an essential health benefit, under the Affordable Care Act. Coverage for women of color grew at more than twice the rate of women overall in 2013 to 2015. So to have a conversation about maternal mortality at a time when our Republican colleagues are using every tool in the book to roll back access to guaranteed maternal care and maternal coverage is a bit much.
So picture this. On November 3rd, we choose.
We choose who sits in 435 seats in the House of Representatives.
We choose 24 senators and 13 governors.
I think you're muted, Dr. Young. Oh, you're unmuted, but I still can't hear you.
I just want to take some quick impressions. What did you guys see from that? How did it feel listening to that story?
That was wow, especially since that's close to home for one, and I didn't even know about that story. I mean, I know about infant-mortality, but I didn't really know about that particular, that particular hospital was.
It made me very angry, and to be told, well, your wife is not a priority right now. How does the hospital dare to say that? Life, oh, life.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, when he was talking about all the symptoms that his wife was showing, I'm training to be an EMT, so I was like, that symptom, I know about this one, and it just progressively just got worse. So I just felt like, even I don't know, if the medical staff couldn't just, they could see the symptoms, but they just determined that she wasn't a priority. That just makes me really angry, because we're providing care to everyone that we can, whoever needs it, and everyone is a priority, basically.
Made me wonder what happened afterwards in terms of potential legal action against the hospital. And secondly, we always hear about how the US has access to so many resources and is ahead compared to other countries, but more and more I keep seeing how we're behind. So they stated the comment about, being one of the highest amongst the developed nations in deaths of moms. I forget what the term was, but that was surprising to me.
Maternal mortality.
Yeah.
I see some folks commented here. Okay. Okay, this is, it was actually heartbreaking because I didn't know this was happening. And then I think everyone can see devastating, especially that we have the best doctors in the world, yet have the highest rate of mothers passing during childbirth is unacceptable. And then Jolene said, I'm a nursing student. And this makes me really upset that nurses and other medical staff would neglect their patient like that. So my question is, why was she not a priority? Why do you think she wasn't a priority?
I think they've
Because
made other people priorities depending on various personal prejudices. I've seen situations, I mean, they were in shows and not real, but the amount of effort put forward in saving Black lives is not necessarily the same as the amount of effort put forward in saving other people's lives, especially white lives. And there are instances perhaps where there's, Black practitioners who lobby amongst their teams that, no, this is urgent. We need to help this person now. And it shouldn't be a Black staff member to say that. It should be like anybody on staff should want to help people equally. But I don't think that's the case.
What do you think? Do you think that the value or the opinion of that Black staff member holds a lot of weight?
Probably not the same as everyone else, because they're going to be a minority for the most part, and perhaps not the most senior in most cases, but I'm sure it depends.
I would also like to add that I feel that she wasn't a priority because due to her being Black and they believe that her pain tolerance, she can stand a lot of pain. So her pain tolerance wasn't what it was perceived, basically.
Really? Wow, I haven't
they,
heard of that context. That's crazy.
Yeah, Black women have a higher pain tolerance is what it is. It's, even though her husband was saying that, what was going on, the medical staff didn't believe that was going on. And that's probably why they made her wait as well.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Is it a real thing that Black women have a higher pain tolerance, or is that just a perceived?
No, that's it's a racist view.
Yeah, to add to Nisha said, I've heard a lot of stories about how Black women are dismissed because they're not only are they seen to have a higher pain tolerance, they're also dismissed because they think that they're being dramatic or overreacting because of the pain that they're experiencing. But I think it's really just disappointing because, illness does not discriminate,
So her husband, again, let's just look at socioeconomic factors. Let's look at insurance status. So her husband is actually the son of a judge in Los Angeles. She graduated from college. It looks like they were traveling places, so it looks like they had funds. She was obviously in Cedars-Sinai, which I've worked in, and I did my rotations through in medical school. She had insurance. She was educated. She was relatively well off. Maybe they lived in Ladera Heights area or Blair Hills. in Los Angeles or somewhere else, Santa Monica. I mean, they could have lived somewhere else, but did they have the knowledge and the funding necessary to get appropriate care? Yes, they did. Again, they were considered to be at the best hospital in the world. So it wasn't insurance status. It wasn't economic status. So why was she dismissed? Like we really have to internalize that, and we really have to get to a place where we understand what the root cause of this is. So in surgery, we have something called M&M. It's the morbidity and mortality difference. It is confidential. Outside people are not allowed in. It's only medical providers, medical students, residents, doctors, and fellows. And some of the maybe support staff, but no one else is allowed in. Why? Because we talk about where we messed up, why a patient died. So what is the root cause? We do a root cause analysis. What is the root cause of her death?
I think it would be negligence in this case because I think it's quite obvious. Like, you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse to tell that she was in bad shape, right? She was starting to shiver. She was becoming pale. I think, like even just like a lay person would understand that they were being ignored, and she didn't receive the treatment that she needed at that time.
So the root cause analysis would demonstrate that she passed away because her life didn't matter. Is this someone's in the waiting room? Because there is a history and a legacy, especially in this country, of assigning value to people based on their race or based on their class or their sex. More money is spent on white men for healthcare in this country than anyone else. I was shocked to find out in medical school that the VA, this is our government system, would pay for a man to receive what we call an artificial pump-up penis after a prostatectomy or after prostate surgery or radiation. Yet that same institution would not pay for breast reconstruction for women, soldiers, after bilateral mastectomy. So we've seen in the past that women were not valued, and we can see that there are varying degrees throughout history of who's important and who's not. One of the things I want to speak with you today about is the idea of eugenics. And someone give me the definition of eugenics. You guys can Google it too, it's okay. So I'll jump in. So there's positive eugenics and there is negative eugenics. Positive eugenics is looking at people who have certain features and promoting their reproduction. So a lot of this started in the mid 1800s by a group of individuals who thought that the Aryan race or the Aryan people of Aryan descent were superior to those who were not. And we saw how maybe 50, 60 years later, after this movement began, what did we have in Europe? We had genocide. And that's something we shouldn't forget. That happened in our grandparents' lifetime, or our great-grandparents' lifetime. There's a physician named Rudolf Virchow. If you've studied medicine, then you would know that there's Virchow's triad, there's Virchow's node. So he is well known and well respected in medicine. He did an experiment where he looked at over 6 million individuals, children in schools, and found that you could not identify who was their physical characteristics. So now negative eugenics is looking at individuals who are deemed to be inferior or not worthy contributors to society, and they are sterilized many times. And so where do we see this? We've known that in Los Angeles, and maybe this is news to some of you, but many of the clinics, they actually sterilized women, Black women, Latino women, poor white women, after they went to give birth. And these are physicians who did this.
Didn't this also happen in prisons in California?
Yes. And is it happening today? Where is it happening today?
In jails, and also with ICE, the women that are within ICE, with ICE right now, with that's in prison camps with the ICE.
Yes, the detention, right, where the migrants are. That's what they're doing.
So what would possess someone to feel that they had a right against someone's wishes to sterilize them and decrease their reproductive capacity?
Don't medical professionals take oaths?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then why don't they face consequences for these kinds of things?
They should. They should lose their licenses.
Doesn't it depend on who they work for?
But it's hard to prove. What's that?
Doesn't it depend on who they work for? So if you're working for a government agency and who knows what they're doing, they can justify it any kind of way and offer protection for those physicians.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they might go to court, they might, have a lawsuit, but then they'll pay for it.
Yeah, well, they might not even get to that point, is what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, a doctor, a typical doctor, I think has a lot more, is able to be exposed a lot more. They don't have those protections. Whereas, those aligned with, like I said, the government, depending on the project, depending on how I guess valuable that doctor is to the project, the government will do anything to protect their interests. And so they'll protect that doctor to, do smear campaigns against whoever's reporting it, all that kind of stuff. But like in the case like this one here at Cedars-Sinai, or if we're talking about eugenics and how, what was it, in 74 or thereabouts in UCLA, when they did the forced hysterectomies and how they're doing it with ICE. I don't think there's enough outcry for anybody to be held responsible.
Sorry, say that last part again.
I don't think there's enough outcry, public outcry and outrage for anybody to be held responsible. It's just gonna turn over in the daily news cycle, and then something else is gonna replace it and get your attention.
Yes, it's not covered by the news media. It's only covered by organizations, and I've signed letters, but it's not brought up by the media. It's, you know, it's silent. You're right, Tony.
So what does this, again, I mean, I'm going to go back to a couple other points, but based on your point, Tony, what does this tell us? If there's no public outcry, what does this mean? That means for society as a whole, they agree with it.
Yeah, you're right. And those that know about it are complicit. If they know about it, they're not saying anything about it. Maybe they're afraid for their own jobs or even their lives. They're just as bad as the people perpetrating that crime.
Or they're dismissed.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they don't know. I had a patient who, I believe she was just 22. She had 2 kids. She had her first when she was 17. And this was out in like Central California somewhere near the mountains. I forgot the name of the town. And she came in a second time when she was 19 pregnant. And the doctor was mad at her and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you pregnant? You can't have any more kids. If you have any more kids, you're going to die." So during her C-section, he cut her fallopian tubes and tied her tubes. So she was white. She was obese. I don't believe she graduated from high school. But this is happening right now. And this is not only with reproductive rights, this is with transplants. If you look at people who are waiting for transplants and those who actually get transplants, the majority of people who get transplant are white or Asian. Very few are Black or Latino, or Southeast Asian, or Pacific Islander, or Native American.
Is there no audit process?
Oh, there is. There is. But who are the people making the decisions? And how easy is it to say that someone is not eligible for a transplant because they don't have the support necessary? The other issue is that you've got to actually get to a kidney transplant surgeon. So whose job is that? It's the nephrologist's job to refer someone. Now, if that patient never gets a referral, are they going to get a transplant? Are they going to be evaluated at all? No.
No.
So there are multiple levels in the system. And where does it come down to? It comes down to the racist and eugenic type attitudes that persist in the medical profession. One of the things that happened to me in my training, and I trained in the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science, UCLA medical education program that is delivered with UCLA, now called the David Geffen School of Medicine. And so in many of the places that I worked, and especially at the county hospitals, you would think it would be different there. And if any of you guys are working at the county, tell them I said this. It's fine. I'm already in enough trouble. Okay? I was shocked at how people are treated, how people are dismissed. how people who don't speak English are made to sign papers that they don't understand or that was poorly translated. I studied Spanish, and I'm always asking questions. I've become fluent in Spanish, especially medical Spanish. And so I was able to intervene and go back and say, hey, wait a minute, you told them this. That's not really what's happening. But see, in medicine, they expect you just to fall in line and follow the rules. People like me, we get knocked down if we say something. We get put in our place, per se. So there's such a pressure in medicine to not speak up. And there's also this pervasive way that physicians will take on the attitudes of those who are training them. So who are the majority of people training physicians right now?
White.
Who were the majority of people who were accepted to medical school? It's only recently, in the past.
White
Yeah,
men.
go ahead.
White men, white women. It's not too many color. It's not too many Black or Latinx or any physicians like that. Or the patients, they're not able to relate to their physician because they don't look like them. I'll go with that.
You know, I mean, people would take things and body parts and throw them on the floor because they're mad at the patient because they were a certain color, or they felt more at liberty to do something in a patient that they wouldn't do. One of the things I heard very often is this would happen at Harbor UCLA. Some of the residents who would come and rotate through would say, I'm going to practice what I'm doing here at Harbor UCLA that when I get to UCLA, I'll be ready. Are you kidding me? You're going to practice on my friends and family? No, that's unacceptable. That's completely unacceptable. So the culture of medicine has to change. And this is one of the things that I'm passionate about. And luckily, and maybe unluckily in some stances, I'm in an institution right now where I can speak up. But still, there's other forces that'll try to knock me down. And it still happens. We're still limited. Even being the first historically Black graduate institute in Los Angeles. And even though we trained the best surgeons in the world and had the #1 trauma center, it was closed down because of politics. It was purely politics. And when everyone refers to King Drew or to Drew, it's with this negative attitude. Oh, don't go there. Oh no, don't go there. It's like, wait a minute. I have the best physicians training me there. Wait a minute. They have the best surgeons there. And the American College of Surgeons even stated that. No, it wasn't Killer King. Do you know why it was called Killer King? It's because someone fell off the roof of the hospital while it was being built. That's where the term Killer King came from, and it was in the news. So it's a smear campaign. So Marissa, and I can't see her, she is, but spoke with me last week about what can we do about this? And this is only a small fraction of the information. So he said, we've got to hit doctors, and the medical system where it hurts. Where does it hurt? Money and lawsuits. So if you see this, so we can talk about that. There needs to be a process where patients can report, where family can report, where staff can report, right? Without fear of retaliation. Now, in these electronic systems where they have you write something in, there's always a way to track you. Okay, so it can't be that way. It has to be completely outside company. And there has to be someone, not with their hand in some bag getting some money so that, they'll see who the whistleblowers are. So, so we're going to talk about advocacy. And again, as I was mentioning, we're going to look at the law, and we're going to look at money, and we're going to look at what we can do so that we can train better physicians. Whereas someone asked earlier about, do we take an oath? The Hippocratic Oath, right? To do no harm. But it's to do no harm, perhaps, to only those that you care about. It's okay to experiment on other people.
Sound like the LAPD to me.
Exactly.
And the sheriff department.
That's the issue, is that this mentality of it's not even not caring, of purposefully allowing someone to die, or purposefully providing incorrect care.
Yeah,
it's part of the system.
How is that proven though? Because to me, that sounds like murder, premeditated murder. So how do you prove that out and prosecute it?
People have to sue. But so here's one thing. People get away with things when they feel that they can. So do individuals have funding to hire a lawyer to file a suit? Do individuals have the wherewithal, especially if they're at a county hospital? Do individuals even know that something wrong was done to them? So those of you who are training for healthcare, those of you who are going into medicine or allied health professions, it is our responsibility to keep our eyes open. When I lived in New York, there was these signs on the subway, every couple advertisements that said, if you see something, say something. Don't just let someone get beaten or robbed or raped or something like that and walk away pretending it's not your business. It is your business. It is your business. So who can you write? So we're going to go into the policy portion now. And so I wanted to speak with the leaders to ask them, how do you want to go about this as far as the breakout rooms?
I think I'm going to hand the mic over to Denise, who's going to do a quick explanation of what our advocacy skill training is for the day. And then after she explains, we will separate everyone into breakout rooms, and they can complete the skill on their own, and then we'll reunite as a whole group at the end. So I guess I'll hand the mic over to Denise now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Denise with LA Works. How is everyone doing? Give me a thumbs up if you're grateful that you're here and that you are hearing Dr. Young's really powerful, important work. I am certainly grateful for her words. So one thing that we are going to do now is the advocacy action item that we are going to work on today is contacting your national representatives or just contacting your electeds. And Dr. Young is going to help us out with some things that we can contact them about. So let me share my screen with you guys. Give me just a second here. So what we've got right here is just a very simple, let's see if I can do this here. So what we've got here is just a very simple guide for contacting your electeds. So I would love everyone to participate in this first step with me. And the first thing is to find your representatives. So in another window or another tab or something like that, please go ahead and go to govtrack.us/Congress/members. So everybody, please go ahead and do that. And as soon as you are there, give me a thumbs up, either visually or by using that little emoticon, and then I'll move on to the next step. Beautiful. I see some people getting that. I'll wait just a little bit more until everyone goes to, again, govtrack.us/Congress/members. So this is an easy way for you to find your representatives. And this is an incredibly robust, oh, thank you so much, Erica. You're the best. Thank you for putting that. Thank you so much for putting that that link for everyone to follow. So if you guys can't type it in, it's in the thing. It's in the chat, and you can just click on it. So this is an incredibly robust website that allows you to find out so much about your representatives. So if you go to this website, let me see if I can copy paste it and jump over to it with you guys. You will put in your address or your zip code, I think, and it will show you your representatives. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in, get out of the way here, and type in the address of the LA Works office, and we'll see what comes up for our representatives. But I mean, unless we're, since we're looking at national, so one thing that Dr. Young mentioned is for her proposed changes, we need to contact the national level, not the local level. So that's why we're checking out our national representatives here. So we've got our senators and we've got our representative. So we want to get their contact information. So if you want to @, them on social media, that's great as well. Today, we're just going to be practicing writing emails or contacting them. So let's say we want to contact Ms. Kamala. I know she's got a lot on her plate right now, running for vice presidency, but you can just go right to her website over here. And it's great because she makes it super easy to contact her. Look at this, it's right on her landing page. She says, I want to hear from you, share your opinion. So this is where you'll type your message in. If we're looking at Dianne Feinstein, I think she might be, if we go to her official website, I wonder if we have to go a little bit, we have to dig a little bit more to find, oh, nope, she makes it easy too, bless her. Email Dianne, it's great. So it says you can send an email message as well there. So you've got how to contact your electeds right there. So we are going to talk real quickly about best practices, and then Dr. Young is going to share with you some of her proposed things that she wants you guys to share with, or that she suggests that you guys could share with your representatives to help combat this epidemic of medical racism that is happening. But I want to give you a few tips and tricks real quick. So I'm going to jump back to my slide to show you those tips and tricks real quick. Give me just a second here. And they are pretty easy. Number one, keep it brief. Number two, State who you are and what you want right away. In the first paragraph, state that you're a constituent. That's the important thing. Let them know that you are the person that elects them. It's much more effective for you to reach out and say that you're a constituent rather than to reach out to like places where you are not a constituent. So in that first paragraph, say, you know, I elected you, and this is the issue I'm talking about. And then after that, elaborate on your 3 strongest solutions. Discussing solutions is more effective than discussing problems. Just telling them that medical racism exists is not as effective as coming in and saying, here, I have a very detailed plan to show you how to combat this. And then personalize your letter. This is incredibly, incredibly powerful. If you can, include a personal story that shows how this issue affects you or your family or something like that. So yes, please share the personal effect that this has on you, and then personalize your relationship with the actual elected. Like, you know, if you voted for Kamala Diane, or I think it was my guy is Tony Cardenas, and I voted for those, you know, a lot myself. I voted for all those guys in the past. So I could say, you know, I continue to vote for you. I work at LA Works, and, you know, we're talking about some of the great stuff that you guys have done. So I would sort of personalize, like, hey, this is what I do for you. Or this is the position that I'm in. And this is, you know, kind of personalize your relationship with the elected, you know, whether that's I voted for you, I contributed to you, I phone banked for you, or I tell all my family to vote for you, or I tell all my family not to vote for you. Whatever it is, talk to them, personalize your relationship with them. And then the final thing is be courteous but firm. Remember that their job is to represent you. You know, you don't, but you also want to be courteous, because if you come off sounding like a madman, they're not going to take your messages seriously. So you do kind of have to be a little bit courteous, although this is definitely a subject that could boil your blood. We do want to be courteous, but we also want to remember that they literally work for us. So that is just some quick suggestions. And then I would love to pass it back to Dr. Young, because I know that she did have some great suggestions about what she thinks we can suggest be done at the national level to combat this. Where'd she go? Where'd you go, Dr. Young?
I'm here. Do you see me now? Okay. All right. So in thinking about this and thinking about one of the best ways in order to combat this, we have to be able to address this systematically. So who are the people who make up system, or I guess I blew it. What are the systems made of? People. They're not just the buildings. They're the people, right? So we're looking at systemic racism or institutionalized racism. What does that mean? That means that there are policies within the institution that are followed that promote racism. Okay, and so again, and who are the people making those? Who's making those policies? People. I keep blowing it, but it's people. So what can we do with people? They can either change, and how easy is it to change people? You know, you guys got a boyfriend and girlfriend, are like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get them to change. Is that really realistic? Uh-oh. Stop. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm losing my connection. And so the other strategy then is increasing the number of Black, Latino, and Southeast Asian, Pacific Islander physicians in medicine. So in the last application cycle, where they're over, and I share this quickly with you. 2008, 2009 report. This is the American Association of Medical Colleges. Now, this is okay. So there's really not a lot we can do, like the LCME or ACGME. The LCME, it's for undergraduate medical education, and when it's undergraduate, it actually just means medical. And the ACGME is for graduateships. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of power over those organizations, but we have something else that would be effective. So quickly, I'm just going to go through this with you here. These are applicants to medical school. So you see that we have 1,400, 856 multiple races or ethnicities, and it's hard to tease out like what this actually means. When I started undergrad, they told me that it was 30% people of color, and I was like, oh, that's great. And then I got there and I was like, oh, wait a minute, they just, like people who were of two European backgrounds counted as in that population. I was like, wait a minute, that's not what it means in the US. So anyway, it was just, it wasn't necessarily true. 97 applicants. American and Alaska Native, only 109 applicants. And that's compared to white applicants, which are 24,686. So do you guys see that there's a difference? And then with Asian applicants, 11,218. And so we think that this looks good, but looking at how medical school or pre-med process works. And then the next slide. So now we're gonna look at the percentage of acceptees. Okay, so for white Americans, it was 49.8%. For Asians, 4,948. Black or African American, 1,596. Then Hispanic Latino, 1,402. All right, so yes, there's sort of a 2-to-1 ratio. So twice as many people apply to medical school than accepted. However, when we're looking at the health of our nation, when we are looking at taking care of people who are from underserved communities, that there are people who understand those communities and actually have a dedication to, compassion for, and willingness to work in those communities. Okay, I have one of my coordinators right now told her professor at Pepperdine that she was going to work at CDU and in South LA, and he said, "Oh, is it safe there? Are you going to be okay?" Yeah, it is safe actually. Our campus is very, very safe. Our people around who come, and they don't want underdeveloped or developing countries. So what we need to do is increase the number of people who do want to work there so that we won't be under-resourced in the areas. It's not that the areas are underserved, they're under-resourced. There's not enough physicians, PAs, nurses who are willing to work. What is the solution? The solution is increasing. So if we can't necessarily, again, control medical school admission, what we can control, or what we can make a dent in, is residency. So what is residency? So after you graduate from medical school, generally in internal medicine or surgery. If you're in a subspecialty like family medicine, or if you're in emergency medicine, OBGYN, you'll have your own intern year. So after your intern year, you go on to, after medical school is 3 additional years. For OBGYN, after medical school, 4 additional years. For surgery, after medical, 5 to much research you do. Medicine is 4 years. Psychiatry is 4 years. So
I apologize, Dr. Young. Please let me know if anyone else has kind of lost Dr. Young's audio completely. She's kind of been coming in and out, but is anyone else hearing her and I'm just not hearing her?
No, I'm
I think she's gone. I might, yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is to that.
let me, hold on.
Yeah, this thing is her internet, but
Great stuff though, very great. So maybe as Dr. Sheila is, or Dr. Young is figuring out her tech issue, we can kind of discuss what
you're still breaking up a little bit, Dr. Young.
I might actually, if you're able, just kind of sign out and sign back in. Sometimes that kind of gives it a nice little reboot. Would that be something you're willing to do, Dr. Young? I will never know because we can't hear, unfortunately.
I think she was just talking more so about the residencies.
Mm-hmm.
And
so can anyone kind of recap the one suggestion that she had sort of thus far about how we can actually combat her one suggestion thus far? Did anyone catch it despite kind of the in and out?
I could try. So yeah, basically, what she's trying to get us to understand is that we need to get in contact with these elected officials and let them know that we need to diversify our positions. Meaning, like, we need to get more physicians that look like our patients. That's in South LA, or to get more physicians that are able to not dismiss the pain or dismiss the patient overall, or to not look at the patient because of their race. We need to start getting more funding for our residencies so that we can have more residency spots for these potential physicians that's going to be serving these patients in the future. Or we also need physicians to come to South LA or to come to underserved communities and be willing to work with these community members, opposed to just looking for a paycheck in a sense. So basically, when you write these these emails, actually, you make sure that you let them know about the residencies, how we need more spots in residencies, we need more funding for these residency programs, and more community members that look, or physicians that look like the patient. And I think she's that.
Okay, I think Dr. Young has rejoined us again. So fingers crossed.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
There she is.
Okay.
Here.
All right, I switched internet. It's still a little bit low. I think it's just where I am in the house, but hopefully it'll be okay. And so one of the things, so with the numbers, so we see that with medical school applicants, we really can't affect that too much on a national scale. The only thing that we can really do immediately is to affect graduate medical education funding that is funded by Medicare. Now, yes, there are some hospitals that support as well, but the majority is Medicare. It's billions of dollars a year. So it is your right as a citizen of this country to decide who should be your physician. So if you want more physicians who understand your background, who want to take care of you, whether you have insurance or not, then that's something that you have to demand from your government, okay? And so what we're gonna ask for is asking them to actually require for the health of our country that medical residents represent, or 1/3 of medical representatives come from the HRSA educationally or educationally disadvantaged or financially disadvantaged backgrounds. Okay, so that they meet those criteria of educationally disadvantaged or financially disadvantaged. So HRSA has programs called HCOP. I did those programs. It's Health Career Opportunity Programs. But they don't really exist once you get into medical school or once you get to that level. So we can request that at least 1/3 of those entering residency programs, yes, exactly. The other thing that we can request is that Black American and Latino individuals or individuals from these backgrounds fill all residency positions before international students are allowed to fill them. So one of the things that I've noticed with surgery very often is that people from Germany, from Italy, it's HRSA, that they fill those spots first. And so for some competitive residencies, Americans won't be chosen. Okay, and then there's this other thing in medicine, and I have nothing against, and I love my adoptive father is Nigerian. However, there is a tendency in medicine to accept someone who's international who is Black over someone who is Black American. That's just what happens in the medical field.
Why do you think that is?
What I've seen is that I've seen this. There were 2 individuals working in the OR. A racist comment was made. You could see that the American Black person became upset. Their defenses went up. Their sympathetic nervous system went up. You know, they would complain perhaps to the administration about this racist remark or racist thing. For the other person, it didn't faze them. It wasn't, it didn't register. And that's because the legacy of slavery is in our DNA. That's why someone who has never done anything wrong in their life, you know, who could have grown up in a very wealthy family, if they see a cop approaching them, their blood pressure, their heart rate increases significantly. It's in the DNA, okay? And so because of this, there's also an attitude that, you know, well, the Black Americans in the US were former slaves, and so, you know, they'll always be beneath us. They really can't become one of us, or really a part of this country. But we've seen in history that those who've come from abroad are accepted more. And again, there's nothing, like I'm saying, my mentors, my adoptive father is Nigerian, and so I love my Nigerian friends and family, but it's also something that that we see within medicine. Okay.
Yeah.
So so the other thing is increasing funding to train Black, Latino, Native American, and Pacific Islander physicians. The other thing is increasing residency spots, increasing Medicare allocation for residency funding at historically Black medical schools. So that's Meharry, Morehouse, CDU, and Howard. So when MLK closed, not only was it the hospital closing, but it was also all of the residency positions. So there were over 240 physicians who were being trained at MLK, or the King Drew Medical Facility. And that went away. A lot of those individuals continued to work in the community. A lot of them are still on faculty. The faculty lost their positions, but fortunately at CDU, we're reopening our residency programs. And we have to be able to function independently of some of the state or county systems. Okay, so yes.
Can I show like an example of a one-pager that I have?
Sure.
Okay. Can I share, please?
Yep, let me give you, oh, you got it, great.
Like, so this
is
like, I was sending the follow-up email, everyone, but this is like something that it talks about the HCOP, the COE, and the SDS. And it's just to the Senate. But I was sending in the follow-up email. Just one. It's just a one-pager, and I'll send it to you all so that you guys can have an idea of what Dr. Young is talking about and covering right now.
And then one other thing that I am going to throw in there, because this has happened to me, is that in residency or after medical school, I had $245,000 in loans. In residency, I probably got $3,200 a month. And that wasn't enough to pay my loans, which were probably at least $1,500 a month, $1,200 to $1,500. And so over the course of 6 years, my student loans have increased by $100,000. So I think that we should also ask that there is at least a portion, at least 50% or so or more, of students who are from educationally or financially disadvantaged backgrounds. For physicians, student loan forgiveness. I know that there's a national student or a national health services program, but for those who are already working in the community or who are pursuing advanced careers and who plan to come back to the community, it's just a burden that I feel like, how am I going to get out from under this? It's like a mortgage, you know? And so, so providing a way for physicians, and you guys all saw that Mike Bloomberg donated $100 million, right? To the 4 HBCUs, but that's for current medical students. And they won't get it for another 4 years or so. Yes, exactly. Okay, so I think that that would get us started. And then I would be happy to, in the future, if you guys have more questions, go ahead and speak with you about more topics. But if the government requires that physicians represent the community, and there's always this question of, are they qualified? What if the quality goes down? No. That's not true. If you're a person of color and you're applying to medical school, you've overcome so much to get there. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and I think you can have some time to write, and then I'm staying on for a wrap up, right?
Yeah. So
Yes?
I think
Okay.
what we will do now is we will take some time to independently start working on some of our emails. Dr. Young will be around if any of y'all have any questions for her or for myself, Nisha, or Denise while you're writing. But I think we should take until, sorry, what's the, I'm sorry, I'm in another time zone, so I'm converting.
I can tell you, Marissa, it's about 1:40 right now. So I think we should go until 1:55 working on these emails. I will repost that, whatever you call it, I'll repost that one sheet that I kind of, that one sheet that I kind of made just to give you some tips on how to write that. But yeah, so let's say 15 minutes to work on those emails. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. But yeah, feel free to mute yourselves, turn off your video if you want, or keep it on, whatever you want. But we're just going to work independently for 15 minutes and come back at 1:55 to kind of discuss how our progress is. So everybody take care. We'll see you at 1:55.
See ya.
Hey everybody, just popping in to let you know that we've got a little less than 5 minutes left to work on this. And I would love to encourage you guys. I know that we want to make these, emails works of art, but the shorter and sweeter they can be, the more likely they are to actually be read. So feel free to keep them short, keep them brief. And just really try to get them sent off today, because we just want to make sure that this work happens, that we don't start it and never finish it. So it would be truly awesome if these emails could be finished today. So I believe in you. You guys can do it. You can make it short. You can make it sweet. You can make it awesome. And we'll be coming back together again in about 3 minutes.
All right, let's start making our way back. It's all right if you haven't totally finished yet. Unfortunately, Nisha did have to leave as she has work in about 10 minutes, but she says a big goodbye and thank you to you all. I'm going to, Denise, is it okay if oh, you read my mind. All right, so let's spend some time talking about how we think today went. Does anyone want to share what it was like for them to start writing an email to their elected official? Maybe if this is your first time and you've never contacted one of your representatives before, how did it feel to, think about starting this process?
Yeah, if possible, I'd love to hear from someone who has never contacted an elected official before. Either maybe show with a thumbs up or something like that if this is your first time contacting them, or if you're willing to turn on your video or just to turn on your audio and talk to us about, yeah, this was my first time and this is what I thought about it. We'd love to hear.
Yeah.
So I don't have a camera, otherwise I would turn on my camera, but I think I may have written one letter before to an elected official. So essentially this is my first time, and I think it definitely drives you to want to be more educated yourself on the issues and the policies that are going on right now, because you know that that elected official that you're writing to is going to know what they're talking about, and so it makes you want to know more and know the situation and to be able to just educate yourself and really figure out what the ins and outs are and how you can best use your voice in an educated manner. So I appreciate you guys for helping me to get a little bit of a foot in the water in that respect.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, big round of applause. I'm really glad to hear that this session has been helpful in sort of guiding you to contact your elected officials. And, I'm hoping that you can take the skills that you've learned today and continue to think about other issues that you can advocate for in the future, because this is just one of many.
I'd also love to hear from you guys, just any impressions that you had about some of the stuff that Dr. Young so graciously shared with us. I know in my own experience as a privileged white woman, it's gobsmacking to hear this stuff, and it's also very humbling because as a privileged person, I have to also do the uncomfortable work of acknowledging my complicity. And so I imagine that I'm not the only person in here who has experienced privilege at some time in their life and has to do the uncomfortable work of realizing that I got a lot of work to do. So I would just love to hear from anybody else, just kind of their reactions to the great stuff that we had, the great insight that Dr. Young shared with us.
Yeah, it was nice to hear about kind of concrete experiences of medical racism, because obviously I've heard before that it happens, right? And I've heard anecdotes before, but hearing about people not being given enough or being given misleading information because English isn't their first language, or just being verbally degraded or even physically violated in the medical field. It was the first time that I had heard concretely about many of those things. So it was very educational and sad.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. I'd love to read out loud what Erica Santos wrote in the chat, just because it's great. Erica said, "I've never written my own email to my elected before. I've used some templates for emailing about BLM issues a few months ago, but it was my first time writing in my own words and writing about medical racism. It brings me comfort that I'm using my voice." And I just want to say so much, yeah, because it's really easy to get it's really easy to feel kind of like you should just despair about the situation. So taking physical, concrete steps like this to battle it, I think helps fight that.
I also just want to say, and I'm sure Denise, you can either confirm or deny this claim, but I've heard that the templates are are great, but not necessarily as effective as writing an email in your own words, and really taking the time to take an issue in your own hands and express how it personally affects you, or just put things in your own words, I think is really, really powerful and effective. So just wanted to put that out there too.
I think templates are a great starting point, but you should absolutely put your own spin on them, because Kelly Van Brunt, as you mentioned, it's those personal firsthand accounts that Dr. Young shared with us, and that man in the first video shared, that are so powerful to us. So really sharing, like that one point in the slide, show how it personally affects you, can be very, very powerful. Statistics are fantastic, and that persuades a certain, kind of person. But I think we're all kind of suckers for a personal story. So that personal effect is great. I personally would love to hear from one of our medical students here. It seems like we have a fair number of med school students here, and I would just love to hear from you guys what your experience today was. Any brave participants? I heard some of you guys speak before, so.
Feel free to send it in the chat if that's more comfortable for you as well.
Those ones are actually from the AAMC. So you can they should have another updated set coming out soon for the 2019-2020 school year. You do have to do a little searching for them, or else I can, do you mean share them right now, or do you want me to send them to you later?
Could you email them to me and Marissa, and we'll make sure to get it out to everyone afterward? So yeah, guys, we're going to send a thank you email to all of you that includes a link to Dr. Young's slides. But also, I just want to let you guys know we had a pretty substantial wait list today. So if there's anybody that that wants to revisit this, or if any of you guys want to look at this stuff again, or if you know of anyone that wanted to get in and couldn't, this was recorded, and we're going to post it on laworks.com/advocacy. So if you guys want to rewatch this or share it with anyone that you know that's also in the medical field, and you want to make sure that they're aware of these things and they're armed to combat them, please direct them to laworks.com/advocacy, and that link will also be in the thank you email as well.
Yes, so with that, it is 2:00. So we're going to wrap up today's session by what we always do, taking our group photo. So if you could please turn on your camera just for 1 second, and so we can capture all of your beautiful faces, give us a nice pose, some bunny ears, some peace signs, whatever you got. We're just going to take a group photo so we can send this out to all of you to commemorate this wonderful day that we spent together. So,
or like get this, whatever kind of pose you want to get, that we're taking this on in our small way. Give us that pose.
But I don't see Dr. Young in here, which is
she's speaked out already. Or maybe her internet connection was a little bit.
Dang. Okay. Well, that's a shame, but we'll take one anyway so we can send it over to her. So, all right, 3, 2, 1. Yay! All right, thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you had a great time and learned a lot, and hopefully we will be seeing you next week for our last session, which focuses on criminal justice and policing. It's going to be a great one. It's our final one, so really hope to see you all there, and I hope you have a great Indigenous Peoples weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.